Hey there, history peeps. Today we're going to be talking about the legislative branch. Just so I kind of get out of the way, there is a lot here. I'm going to try and give you more of like an overview, so I'm probably going to miss some stuff, and that's okay. You're going to get plenty of information on this in a lot of different ways. This is more like an overview or like a review video, so it's not going to be exhaustive in what it has, or in all the information that it has in there. So, first off, our legislative branch. It's in Article 1 of the Constitution. It's the longest of the three articles that we're going to talk about here with our three branches of government. That's because it was most important to the founders. So, what in the world does legislative even mean? Legislative means to make laws. So, to legislate is to make laws. A legislative branch is your branch of government that's going to make laws just in general. How is ours structured here in America per the Constitution? Well, it is what you call a bicameral legislature. Bicameral. Bicameral means two houses. And then just some quick terms here for you. So bicameral means two houses, and it means you have two different groups of people in your legislative branch. There's a whole word for that, which is weird, but it's how we do it. And so our two chambers or houses, I use those words to mean the same thing, our two groups of people are the House of Representatives and the Senate. Those are the two big groups within our legislative branch. Within Congress is another way that you hear that as well. So the first group of people, the House of Representatives, is based on population. So if your state has more people in it, you will have more people in the House of Representatives. So you're guaranteed one no matter what. And there's every time there's a census, they go through this process called apportionment, where if your state is losing population, you can get a representative taken away. If you're gaining population, you can gain representatives. But you're based in different parts of a state. It's based on population, like I said, and there are 435 people in this House of Representatives. 435 representatives. These people serve for 2-year terms, so that means that you are very much conscious of what everyone in your district wants you to do, because 2 years is not a very long time for someone to remember something you did in the legislature that they didn't like, or a vote you didn't like, or maybe you went against your word, who knows. So the House of Representatives has 435 people based on population. People are in there for 2-year terms, and some people have been in there much longer, and they just keep getting elected. As far as structure, there's someone called the Speaker of the House. It's actually a very powerful position in our government, and the Speaker of the House is responsible for deciding what bills will even get onto the House of Representatives floor, and kind of scheduling debate and scheduling votes, and that actually holds a ton of power. There have been certain times in American history where the speakers of the House have rivaled even the president for individual power. Probably not true in the same sense as it used to be now, but anyway. Beyond that, you have your two parties. You have a majority leader and a minority leader, depending on which party has the most representatives within the House of Representatives, and you have a various hierarchy of people within the parties that we won't really get into too much here. The other chamber, the other half of this whole equation for the legislative branch, is the Senate. There are 100 senators. So you get 2 senators per state. It doesn't matter if you are in Wyoming, or if you're Wyoming that doesn't have a ton of people, or whether you're Texas or California, which are our highest population, some of our highest population states. So no matter what, you get 2 senators. No matter if you're Rhode Island or Alaska, 2 senators, every single state. It's a little bit different than the House of Representatives. In the House of Representatives, I'll talk about this later in the video, things are more structured, they're more loose in the Senate, but it was thought of as kind of more of the higher house, whereas the upper house, whereas the House of Representatives was meant as the lower house. So the Senate is supposed to be more dignified. It's supposed to be a step removed from common people. And for a long time, people did not get to vote directly for their senators. That's not really true anymore. Now we do directly vote for our senators. So, bicameral legislature, House of Representatives, and the Senate. Senators also are elected for 6 years. I almost forgot that. Which means that if you do something that maybe is good for the country but unpopular in your state, maybe you do it, and 5 years later, people have forgotten it, and it's fine. All right. Powers. I'm, again, like I said at the beginning of the video, I'm gonna miss stuff here, but just basically making taxes and borrowing money. Our Congress can do that. As far as actually making laws, they can borrow money. They can regulate interstate commerce, which means basically anytime something crosses a state boundary to be sold, the federal government can theoretically make laws about it and regulate it. And we've made a ton of laws through that power, through that clause in the Constitution where it says that the government can do that. To coin money, we didn't used to have a unified currency, now we do. That comes from Congress, establish the post office, give copyrights and patents. There's something called the Necessary and Proper Clause, where the legislative branch has the power to make all these laws. Declaring war is a congressional power. We don't really fight wars that way anymore, though. You don't declare war, you just fight. So they haven't used that since World War II, but it is a constitutional power of Congress. So kind of like some weird things that differentiate the two houses. The House of Representatives, fun facts about that, even though it's technically the lower house and it's kind of where your career would theoretically start as opposed to the Senate. If it's a revenue bill, so if it's something that is going to require taxing our citizens, it must start in the House of Representatives. What that means is it's going to be pretty tough for just the upper crust of society to pass taxes. The people have to be kind of consulted, is how it's viewed, for more taxes to be passed. There are very strict rules on how things are debated and who's speaking in the House of Representatives. So you have like an allotted amount of time for debate. The Speaker of the House controls all this and can kind of just bring things to a vote or can continue debate or whatever. But it means that the House of Representatives is a pretty structured atmosphere. The Senate, it's a little bit different. They have a special power where they review appointments the president makes. So if the president is picking important people for important positions in our government or the Supreme Court, the Senate has to approve of them. They go through a whole process where they decide this person would be good at this job or this person would be bad at this job, and they must approve it. So that's a very powerful thing for the Senate to be able to do. They also ratify treaties. This means that we really don't ratify. Ratify means approve, by the way. Sorry about that. That means that we don't really ratify a lot of treaties with foreign countries, and we'll talk about in the next video. The president does have a power to negotiate them, but a lot of times our Senate just can't get enough people to ratify these treaties. So yeah, the vice president is technically the president of the Senate, but doesn't really necessarily go there very often unless there's a 50-50 split. The vice president does get the tiebreaker vote in the Senate, which is kind of a cool power that person has. But basically that very rarely even comes up. So it's a very specific set of circumstances. And the Senate was meant as a more kind of dignified and open way to discuss government, so there's no limit on debate in the Senate. So a senator can get up and start talking and keep talking and keep talking, and that's called a filibuster, which is a very specific kind of thing where you say, I care about whatever issue so much that I am going to keep talking forever and even stop Senate business. And you need 2/3 of the senators to vote to end a filibuster, which is very tough to do when you have a two-party system. So, yeah. So that's just like the real quick, and I left out like a ton of stuff, but we'll get a lot more information about it real quick for the legislative branch.